Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, and welcome to the Karey Carbaugh podcast, episode number 74. Buenas noches, damas y caballeros, chicos y chicas, niños de todas edades, y bienvenidos a el Karey Carbaugh podcast, episodio número 74. Welcome. My name is Karey Carbaugh, and this is the Karey Carbaugh podcast, where we help people with feelings of self-esteem and self-image. My goal is to promote positive self-esteem and self-image through these podcasts, and I sincerely appreciate all of those of you that have been joining me on these since the beginning. We are on episode number 74, and I think this is going to be a very powerful podcast tonight. I hope you'll agree. Before we get started, smash that like button, like if you do, and let me know if you're tuning in live or on the replay by dropping an L or an R or the word live or replay in the comments. And if you would, let me also know where you're tuning in from. It helps me to know where these podcasts are reaching, and I become more and more amazed all the time at how broadly these are reaching, both geographically and socially, reaching some people that are not followers or friends, that are becoming followers and friends. And it's just very exciting for me to see where you're tuning in from. So I appreciate that. Most of you know, I am a person with low vision. I don't think I'm going to be reading much on my phone tonight, so it may not be quite as obvious as it is in some episodes, but I just wanted to bring that out in case I'm not staring right at the camera. You'll know why. But tonight's episode came to me a few weeks ago in a sermon at church, and then it became a bit more refined and took a slightly different twist in direction this last weekend at a conference that I attended on personal development and personal growth. You're never finished with this process of developing yourself personally and growing in your self-esteem and your own self-image. It's an ongoing process. And I continue to attend conferences and workshops on this subject, and I get a lot of great topics and ideas from those. And tonight's topic is just such a topic. So let's dive in. As you noticed from the description, I've titled this podcast, Are You Living What You Believe? What does that mean? Well, first, I think we need to define, what is it that you believe? Are you a Christian like I am? As I've explained in previous podcasts, I am a Christian. I believe in God. I believe in Christ. I don't force that belief on anyone else, but I also don't hide it. Because I believe that in order to be true to myself, I have to live out that belief that I hold. I know that not everyone holds that belief, and I understand that. You may be Muslim, you may be Jewish, you may be some other religion, Buddhist. You may not believe in God at all. You may be atheist. And that's okay. You're welcome in these podcasts. I try not to offend anyone. I hope that I don't offend anyone when I come across with my own personal beliefs. But I think it's relevant to tonight's podcast that we talk about belief. What is it that you believe? Do you believe that God is true? That God is holy? If so, are you living that out? If you believe that God is large, all-knowing, and all-forgiving, are you living in a way that would honor that? Or are you disrespecting God? Perhaps with your language. Perhaps you don't attend church on a regular basis, although that's not a requirement. I believe that it's difficult to hold that belief and not be in communion, in conversation with other believers. It's much more difficult to believe that on your own than it is in a group of like-minded believers. And that's actually true no matter what belief we're looking at. Do you believe that you're recovering from alcoholism? If so, maybe you're a part of a group like Alcoholics Anonymous or Al-Anon, which my understanding is that that also includes drug addictions. Or do you believe that drugs are not harmful? That whatever the drug, whether it's marijuana, legal drugs in some places, whether it's harder drugs, do you believe that those are not helpful? Or not, I'm sorry, maybe you believe that those are not helpful. What I meant to say is that those are not harmful. Whatever your belief is, are you living congruently with that belief? Or, for example, do you believe that it's harmful to eat animal products and yet you're not a vegan? Or do you believe that it is not harmful to eat animal products and yet you are a vegan? That would be incongruent or not true to your belief system. Do you believe that you are conservative, yet maybe you live with someone of the opposite gender, which is not a particularly conservative belief? Nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it's incongruent, inconsistent, if you will, with your belief system if you believe that you're a person who is fairly conservative. Are you a person who is fairly liberal and yet not accepting of many liberal type behaviors? That would also be incongruent with your own belief system. So first of all, I think it's important to understand what it is that you believe. And then examine your own actions and your own lifestyles to see if they match up with your belief system. The next part of this, which I'm going to touch on, I'm not going to go deeply into it in this podcast. If you would like me to go deeper into this next part, let me know that in the comments, and I'll either do another podcast or perhaps more of a private masterclass where we can dig into some of this part a little bit more deeply. This is some of what came out of the conference that I went to this last weekend that struck me as very relevant to this topic. If you believe something, maybe you are a Christian. Why do you believe that? How long have you believed that? Is that something that you believe, or is it something that your parents believed, and therefore you have come to believe it because your parents and your family have all been a particular religion, whether that's Presbyterian, whether that's Baptist, Catholic, Methodist? Have you examined that belief? Or do you just accept it because your mother was, your father was, your grandparents were, your great-grandparents, and so on? I think it's important to take a look at some of those beliefs. I was surprised myself going through the exercise that we did this last weekend on how many beliefs that I hold have been beliefs that I've held since childhood. Many of them I've never really stopped to question. That's not necessarily a bad thing, But some of the other people that were at this conference talked about their journey and how they held a certain belief system until they became maybe a teenager or a young adult and started to examine those beliefs. And they found for themselves, in some cases, that the beliefs that they had held, that their families had held, did not necessarily align with their own belief systems. Without taking a look at those and without examining those, that can be a source of great stress and great difficulty when it comes to your self-esteem and your self-worth. If you're not living congruently with what you internally believe, but you've never examined those beliefs, that can cause internal stress that you may not be even aware of. So I think it's important that we examine our beliefs. Where are they from? Why do we believe a certain way? Whether it's politics, religion, belief about certain lifestyles, certain foods. We talked briefly about being vegan, being perhaps vegetarian, where you eat some animal products. Where do those beliefs come from? I think that's important for us to take a look at that. I hope you're finding value from this. I hope you're getting value out of this, and I hope you can relate to this. If you are, please drop the word value or relate in the comments to let me know that. Otherwise, without some feedback, I never know whether these topics are resonating or whether I'm just rambling on here and creating a good bedtime story for folks. I'm glad to be back on our more normal time tonight, because I think it's going to be better for people on the East Coast, especially. My times that I was managing to get on were a little bit later, and I know it made it difficult for some people on the East Coast in particular. I'm looking around here. I thought I saw some comments, and I was going to respond to a couple of the comments here. I do. Let me welcome a few of you in here. Mr. Darren Walker, God bless you as well, my brother. I appreciate you tuning into this live, and I hope you're getting value from this. And Charlene, great night to you as well. And you say that you're tuning in from the Caribbean. Trinidad. Welcome into the house, Trinidad, for sure. I appreciate both of you tuning in. Those are the only people that I see that have commented so far. I do see that there may be a couple of other people in the live, but I'm not seeing the names. But welcome in. I do appreciate you catching this live. And if you're catching this on the replay, I appreciate you as well. But I did want to reply or respond to a couple of those comments. So, again, getting back to our topic, I think it's important that we examine our beliefs, where those beliefs come from, and why we believe a certain way. Then, after we examine that, it's important to examine, is our lifestyle and the way we live out every day in congruency or in common with those beliefs? Or are there some beliefs that we've held for many years that maybe we need to re-examine? Maybe those are no longer true for us. In the last couple podcasts, we've talked about truths. We've talked about whether things are true for you, or are they really true for you? We've talked about 6 human needs, and how those beliefs might fit into those human needs. Maybe you believe a certain way because it feeds one of those beliefs. If you missed those podcasts, I encourage you to go back and check those out. They were in the last 3 or 4 weeks talking about addictions. And addictions in general might be a particular belief system. And people who find themselves addicted to something might suddenly realize that they're living in a way that's not congruent with what they believe. But because they're addicted to that, it may be difficult to get out of that lifestyle. And that can cause great difficulty with self-esteem and self-image. If you're not consistent between your beliefs and your lifestyles. That's essentially the message that I had tonight. Excuse me. As I bring this in for a landing, once again, I do hope you've gotten value from this. If you have, drop that word value in the comments down below. And if you'd like to be added to my email list for some more in-depth discussion on some of these topics, this may actually be one of my first more private topics to cover. I can see some potential value in going deeper into some of these, going through some of the exercises that we did this weekend at this conference I was at. If that's something you'd be interested in, let me know that and drop the word email in the comments, and I will reach out to get your email address privately and add you to my email list so that when I start doing these private events, I can include you in those invitations. So with that, I believe I've drug this on long enough. If there's a few comments, it looks like there might be one or two that I haven't responded to. I will respond to those afterward. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. And this has been the Karey Carbaugh podcast. Smash that like button, like if you do. Leave me a comment down below. And until next time on the Karey Carbaugh podcast, make it a great week. Be a blessing to those around you. We'll see you next week, unless I pop up sooner. Goodbye for now.